Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k, our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 17th of December and we've got yet another daily video for you today. We're continuing on with Necrons versus Tyranids and we're going to be doing another comparison video. Before we do guys, just a little plug. If you are yet to subscribe to the channel, do so down below. Mainly covering Necrons, but we will be covering other factions in the near future. And yeah, subscribe down below. But today we're going to be talking about 3 Lokhust destroyers. That's not the heavy variant, just the standard Lokhust destroyers. They are 90 points for 3, going up against 3 Hive Guard, which are 110 points for 3. So they are actually 20 points more. Maybe I could have put a 4th Lokhust destroyer in. It still wouldn't have been quite right. It would have been 10 points more in that side, and you can't get 4 in a unit anyway. So it just made sense to go 3 versus 3 on this occasion. So this is of course a unit comparison. We're going to go through it and break it down. So let's start with those Lokhust heavy destroyers. They've had an increase in their movement now, movement of 8 inches, whereas those Hive Guard are only moving 6. They're not as quick, and they don't have fly either. Toughness 6 with the destroyers, toughness 7 with the Hive Guard. Much more resilient there. Both have the 3+ armor save. The destroyers only have 3 wounds. The Hive Tyrants, the Hive Guard. Leadership is better with the destroyers on as a 7+ versus an 8+, and then the OC is slightly better with 2 versus the Hive Guard with 1. All in all, I think that toughness is a big deal. The movement does hinder them slightly, but I think toughness 7 is a big deal, and they've got 4 wounds apiece, so within the actual unit there's an extra 3 wounds in total, so I'm going to give this one to the Hive Guard. On to the abilities. Well, they've got an improved ability here with the Lokhust destroyers, hardwired for destruction. I'm about to edit in the picture last minute because I totally forgot they had an improvement to this ability. So if they're firing at the closest eligible unit, they can reroll their hit rolls of a 1. But if their target is on an objective, then they get to reroll everything. That's what the Lokhust destroyers have. The Hive Guard, they've got defensive stance. Each time you target this unit with a fire overwatch stratagem, while resolving the stratagem, hits are scored on unmodified hit rolls of a 5+ rather than a 6+, or 4+ rolls if the unit is on an objective marker. So the idea is you make sure they're on an objective marker, 1 TP, and they get to use the stratagem Overwatch, Fire Overwatch, which is near enough their actual ballistic skill. They're getting an extra shot every single turn if you did it. That's not bad really. I think that ability is better. I know the rerolls are all great and everything, but I like that option. You could potentially have 5 extra shooting phases if you were to use this stratagem. It's a lot of CP, but yeah, you get CP every turn, right? Weapon-wise, we've got the Gauss Cannons with the destroyers. They've got lethal hits, 24-inch range, hitting on 3s, 3 shots each, hitting on 3s, strength 5, -2 AP, and 2 damage. So a nice anti-Space Marine kind of weapon. Used to be D3 damage, it's now a flat 2, which is good, it's more reliable. I know we don't have the 3 anymore, but we definitely don't get shafted with the 1 as well, so I like it. Now the range side of the Hive Guard, there's 2 options, so we're going to have to go through both of them. There's the Impaler Cannon, which is heavy and has indirect fire. So if you're flying without visibility, it's a -1 to hit, but the heavy will kind of negate that. But if you are firing with visibility, the heavy is going to give you a +1 to hit, isn't it? 36-inch range, so you can really hide these guys. 4 attacks per model, hitting on 4s, strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage. So there's more attacks, it's heavy. Hitting on 4s lets it down a little bit, but again, heavy, you're not going to move them. Strength 5 matches the Lokhust destroyers, -1 AP, 1 damage doesn't quite match, but you've got the 36-inch range. Now the Shot Cannon on the other hand, this is an anti-vehicle weapon. Anti-vehicle 2+, which means as soon as you start to wound a vehicle, you don't need to see what their toughness is. A 2+ will become a critical wound, effectively become a 6+. Only 24-inch range though, so they're going to have to move up the battlefield. You know, when they're only moving 6 inches, it's going to be a struggle. Only 2 shots a model, but hitting on 3s, strength 7, -1 AP, 3 damage. The strength, as we mentioned, doesn't really matter if you are firing at a vehicle, because you're not being compared to their toughness. But if you're firing at a non-vehicle, such as an infantry model, or maybe even the Lokhust destroyers, you're likely wounded on 3s. If it's a monster, however, which is a little bit of a problem for the Hive Guard, they're not getting the anti-vehicle 2+, and they're only strength 7 against something that's probably toughness 10 and beyond. But -1 AP and 3 damage is nice. Now I can't really decide just yet, so we're going to do some Mathhammer. We're going to go through the same examples we did in the previous video or the one before. I can't remember which one it was now. We're going to use the same examples. If we're going up against Astra Militarum Guardsmen, the Locust Destroyers will kill between 5 and 6, whereas the Impaler Cannon, so let's start with the Impaler Cannon, will kill between 4 and 5 of those Guardsmen. Space Marines, you're killing 3.5 with the Gauss Cannon, only 1 with the Impaler Cannon. Terminators, you're killing 1 with the Gauss Cannon, and only chipping off a wound with the Terminators with the shields. Not good. Now when it comes to monsters, I've gone with 4 to 6 damage. You're going to be wounded on 5s, if not 6s here. Whereas the Impaler Cannon isn't really doing a lot. It's sort of between 0 and 1 damage. And the same applies to vehicles. Now when you change that to the Shot Cannon, the stats will change on the right hand side, as you can see. They are still unfortunately in red, as you've already seen. Guardsmen only 2 to 3. It's not their target really. Space Marines 1.5. Again, it's not really their target. Terminators, you're doing sort of 2 to 3 wounds now as an average. Doesn't quite kill one. The AP is lacking there. Monsters, you're sort of doing 2 damage, but vehicles, it starts to get a bit better. It starts to go to 5 damage, which is pretty much identical to what the Gauss Cannons are doing. So if I had to choose one of these weapons, I'm pretty much choosing the Gauss Cannons. Not only that, there's a little problem with the actual Hive Guard because you've got to select one of these weapons before the game even begins when you're making your list, and you're stuck with it all game. So it's not like the Zone Throats where you can change it up, back around to back around. 1 minute you're going with the Focus Warp Blast and the next minute you're going with the Standard Warp Blast. You can't do that. You are one or the other. So that's why I would probably go with the Gauss Cannons. Now synergy wise, you've got the Invasion Fleet, of course. You can upgrade this to hurt a lot of things, whether it's infantry with sustain hits 1 or lethal hits maybe, to match the Gauss Cannons, especially against monsters. You don't really need it against vehicles because you've got the anti-vehicle 2+ anyway, but that could be helpful. Rapid regenerations get a feel no pain save on these guys to give them a little bit more durability with their toughness 7. Very similarly with the Assimilation Swarm, you can be healing these guys if needed, and the Secure Biomass Stratagem from that same detachment, which will again give them lethal hits. Synaptic Nexus, they can probably make do with that invulnerable save, not so much the advanced and charge rolls or the melee attack rolls. The 5+ invulnerable save I think would be handy. And there's a stratagem in there, Imperative Dominance. For 1 Tyranids units within Synapse range, you can select 1 Synaptic Imperative even if you've already used it. So that 5+ invulnerable save, you could basically reuse it back around to back around. You probably won't, to be honest, because Hive Guard are not really selected that often, but the option is there. The Destroyers, they've got reanimation protocols, of course, that's our army rule for Necrons. With the Awakened Dynasty, you've got the command protocols with the Locust Lord. That's a natural leader, so it's a +1 to their hit rolls. And I'll talk about him in a little bit more detail in a moment. He could take the Veil of Darkness relic though as an enhancement to that 24-inch range with the Gauss Cannons. The Netherrealm Casket is another enhancement he could take, which gives the unit stealth. Stratagem-wise, from that detachment, you've got the Protocol Conquering Tyrant to reroll your hit rolls, although they probably will just have it naturally with their ability, or the Protocol of Vengeful Stars. If you've got the Locust Lord in there, then these guys can shoot as if it was their shooting phase. The Annihilation Legion, you can use the Monstrous Reanimation Protocols. When you kill a unit or you bring them below half strength, you can use Reanimation Protocols because they are a Destroyer cult unit. But going back to that Locust Lord, if you apply the Locust Lord to the unit and he's leading the unit, he's going to basically be bringing a Resurrection Orb for starters, which has been nerfed but it's still there. But also any unmodified hit rolls of a 5 will score critical hits. So now you've got all your 5+ are now lethal hits, not just your 6+. So you don't need to roll to wound if you've got a Locust Lord in the unit. So all in all, I think there is decent synergy through both of these units, but I think I'd give it to the Locust Destroyers purely because you've got a leader in there. The Locust Lord I think is a big deal, so I'm going to go with the Locust Destroyers there. So all in all, how do we conclude this one? I mean, the Hive Guard are sitting units. They're sitting there. I mean, Tyranids have a lot of sitter units already in their codex. Biobors are an example. Tyrannofexes, Barb Gaunts, Exocrines, Neuro Tyrants maybe. There's a lot of sitter units that can stay in your home deployment area. So the Hive Guard aren't always a needed unit. The Locust Destroyers tend to be more aggressive because they've got their movement of 8 inches and fly, so they can kind of go hunting, especially if there's units on objectives, so you can reroll all your hit rolls. They do have a slightly worse range though with that 24-inch range versus the Hive Guard, which actually had a 36-inch range Impaler Cannon, but the Shot Cannon did match it with 24. I think with the current meta, I don't believe either of these options are meta. Some people do like the Locust Destroyers. I'm personally not a huge fan. And oddly, you can actually take a single destroyer for only 30 points. And that will be classed as one unit, which I think that's what people are starting to do. They're like using them as an anti-deep strike, just a one single 30-point unit. Because I think that's actually the cheapest model in the Codex. A Royal Warden is 40, the Scarabs are 40, 30 for one single Locust Destroyer to sit in your home objective area, screening off from deep strike. That's how people are actually playing it. But yeah, let's get on to what my verdict is for this video. I think I'm going to go with the Locust Destroyers on this one. I don't rate the Hive Guard that highly. I think they used to be really good in old editions, but now not so much. Not for me. So guys, make sure you are subscribed if you are new around here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.